Hey guys, welcome back to Concordia Jedi. I'm Asher.
I'm Aaron.
Well, this is a little embarrassing because we were looking at our videos and we realized we never did a video talking about what we thought of Rise of Skywalker. Whoopsie! Anyway, so that's what we're doing now. I think start. Aaron, what did you think of the Rise of Skywalker?
Well, with it being said,
Go on. Anyway,
pardon me, I have a piece of M&M stuck in my teeth.
well, that's your fault.
Yeah. But no, it's my favorite film. And I say that I don't say that lightly. I say that with the fact that
Favorite film altogether, or favorite film in the series?
favorite film in the series.
I like the film too, but I wouldn't call it my favorite film of all time. Anyway.
Oh yeah, no.
Continue.
Sure, we'll go with that. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but no. You have, and you said this on. By the way, here's a plug for another channel of this guy. Does a lot of movie reviews. Fantastic. Go follow him. I think it's the ADP, or is it just ADP?
ADP Reviews.
ADP Reviews. There you go.
ADP Reviews. Follow that channel. Do it right now. Click away from this video. Go follow ADP Reviews. Come back.
But yeah, you'll probably put like a description and
link in the description.
Yeah, that.
Hopefully I remember. Anyway.
But you said it perfectly well in your spoiler-free review. So if some of you who by now you should have seen it, but if you haven't, there's a good review to go see. I think at some point you might put out a spoiler review of it.
Yeah, what I think once it's out on home video and streaming, I'll probably do a more in-depth review because there's more things I want to talk about, see if my thoughts on the film have changed.
So, but anyways, in that review, I think Asher here says it best, is you can see the scale of the film. It's huge. It's
huge.
Yes.
The film is huge.
But it's the largest Star Wars film, I will dare say, and I believe you say this, that we've seen.
It's absolutely the biggest Star Wars film.
And so you have this scale, and I remember the first time I saw it, and I still, every time I've seen it.
By the way, if it's still in theaters around you, try to see if you can see like a IMAX or Ultra screen show.
IMAX 3D.
Yeah.
I want to see it in IMAX 3D, but I don't.
The experience alone is worth it. How often do you get to see Star Wars on a screen like that?
But you have the fact that I still, in just talking about this film, I want to go to the edge of my chair. Watching this film, the 2 or 3 times I've seen it, every time I'm on the edge of my seat, I'm watching it, I get into it, and here's also the crazy thing. Each time I've seen it, I have a different perspective that I follow. So the first time I saw it, it was the grand scale of it, and I'm like, because my heart's just beating out of my chest.
You should see a doctor about that. You might have some heart palpitations.
But, just amazing, and it just, so good. The second time I saw it, which is the time I saw it with Asher, it was weird. I almost saw the movie from Rey's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It was really intriguing how I almost was like I was watching it through Rey's eyes. It was really interesting, the way I saw it that second time.
So I'll have something interesting to say when you finish here.
But I absolutely love just the way, the overarching importance that's put into detail of this film, and how this is life or death. This is the galaxy. Is the life or death of the galaxy is in the balance.
Right.
And just how then not only that, you get from Leia and
Luke
Luke, but mainly Leia and Lando. You do get some of Luke of the same concept.
I think he's still a pivotal part of this film.
Right, but there's a specific point I was trying to make here. Yes, he's a pivotal point in this movie, but my point is of bringing in, and Luke does this towards the end. It kind of puts Lando's and Leia's part that I'm talking about here of how they bring in the experience of the past, of how they defeated the big threat that they defeated. And Luke kind of brings this in too about it's smaller scale, but more so how, the Emperor and Vader.
His is more directed towards Rey as a person, whereas when Poe's talking to Lando's like, how did you do it? Defeat an empire with nothing? He said, we had each other. Luke's message to Rey is more directed towards her and her current situation.
While Leia and Lando, it's more of the big picture. It's the
resistance. Last stand.
Exactly. And so just this, the power in all that shapes out around this. It's that center idea of this big thing that's coming.
Right.
And it all ripples out from there. And just, it is so beautiful.
It is. So my thoughts on the film was not as big a fan of it as I was Last Jedi, but at the same time I liked it more than The Force Awakens. This one's, and I still really like all three of these films in the new trilogy, but I'd say this one's probably in the middle for me. I like Force Awakens a lot. Great reintroduction to the Star Wars saga after 10 years. But at the same time, a lot of beats from A New Hope, a lot copied and pasted, a lot taken from Legends. So in terms of original story, not a whole lot there. Last Jedi was very unsure of the first time I saw it. I saw it opening night with him, and he can tell you my expression coming out was just kind of, I don't know how to think about this, or I don't know how to feel about this. He was glowing. I was looking at his face. It was like he just saw the transfiguration. Let's just say that. Like he just witnessed the face of God. That's how much he was glowing. He was, I loved it. I'm like, how did I feel about it? Did I just see a Star Wars film I didn't like? Which I think goes to show the polarizing nature of the film, but with each subsequent viewing, I love it even more, and it's my third favorite right now. Rise of Skywalker, I went in with the mindset, like, you and I both read the leaks beforehand. I was kind of hoping some of these leaks weren't true. Sadly, the ones I was hoping weren't true came true. So we kind of knew what was going to happen going in.
But at the same time, though,
I kind of hate myself for, because I feel like I kind of spoiled a viewing experience of Star Wars.
Well, even then, there's still a lot that's different.
Yeah, they still changed something. There's things that were in the leaks, but that were giving context in the film.
Well, there's that, but also there's some of
the things in the leaks that I thought going in I was going to absolutely hate, I actually really liked because the film gave context for it. Like, spoiler. If you haven't seen the movie, click away in 3, 2, 1. Spoiler. Han Solo's return as a memory to Ben Solo. His
almost a redeeming reversal
of what happened in The Force Awakens between these two. When I read that in the leaks, the leaks basically said Han Solo's ghost appears to Ben Solo. I'm like, doing Force Ghosts for non-Jedi people? That's kind of where I draw the line. This is where I'm starting to lose. This is where you're really starting to lose me here, Disney, Star Wars. But the film makes it clear he's not a ghost. He's a memory, basically.
In comics and EU, this has happened. So
yeah, and big theory going around that I happen to subscribe to is that this is also Leia's doing because she uses the last of her energy in the duel between Kylo and Rey on the Death Star wreckage. She uses the last of her strength as she's dying to reach out and contact Ben through the Force. and be that kind of push that he needed to really examine things. Like both Rey and Ben like feel her pass away, and that gives Rey the opportunity to end the fight. But the theory goes that wasn't all that Leia had left in her. The real last of her strength and what really caused her to pass was bringing forth a living memory, in a sense, of Han Solo to really talk to Ben and get him to see the light. Now, me personally, while I do really like this scene, I still think it would have been stronger to have this be Anakin talking to Ben. But at the same time, it does make a lot of sense also for it to be Han Solo, as this was Ben Solo's real defining act of evil. And it's the same person he killed to achieve that, also giving him his forgiveness and redemption, in a sense. But I'm kind of focusing on specifics here. The film overall, I thought was good. I really enjoyed it. I will get it a physical copy when it comes out.
I personally,
you're gonna get the full Skywalker saga DVD
yes.
set.
If you haven't heard, this is partially rumor, possibly
that is
partially
gonna be
leaked.
Expensive though.
They have actually. The rumor is it's gonna be like $300 to $400.
I saw it as much less. Because
it's a 30-disc set.
I had seen $150, but
it's a 30-disc set.
I hadn't heard 30-disc. I had heard 18. So there must be conflicting rumors, but I'm sure they'll do something like this at some point. But anyway, I really liked the film. My biggest problem, which you can see more in depth in ADP reviews, is that the film seems paced too quickly. A lot of people said that the Last Jedi, the pacing was at times way too slow and at times way too fast. Here, it's way too fast. What I loved about The Last Jedi, and what I love even more the more I watch it, is that The Last Jedi really gave time to talk about what the characters are going through, their troubles and their problems, and really dive into the mysticism of the Force. Here, we don't get a lot of time spent really diving deep into the characters like we did in Last Jedi. We get some scenes of it, but not enough for my taste. It's in a lot of ways a very paint by numbers film, in terms of here's where the action scene goes. Now we get a scene of talking. Action scene, talking. It's like it's a very, very straightforward in terms of how it's structured. But the pacing for me feels way too fast. I feel if this film had if they had just said, screw it, let's make this a 3-hour film, we would have had time for all that action, but we also would have had plenty of time for much needed story. There are some things in this film that still aren't explained. Like, spoiler, how exactly is Palpatine still alive? That's not explained in the film.
It's not explained in the film, but we do have confirmation of why.
How? Does it say how?
Yes, this is actually confirmed by...
Because in the film, the only explanation we get is, Kylo Ren asks Palpatine, like, how did you survive? In the beginning of the film, when he finds him on Exegol, and his response is, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. And I'm like, okay, you threw in a prequel line, but how are you here?
So this is confirmed by Lucasfilm. That this came up as a theory by many, and then eventually it reached Lucasfilm that this was a thing, and they said, yes, this is true. So it's a combination of these several different things. You have of the dark side of the Force, Sith, alchemy, and some other technology. So you have the fact that pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural, which refers to Darth Plagueis, of what happened then. It is believed, it is confirmed that Palpatine figured out a way to cheat death. Now, and what happens here is it's not the whole EU clone stuff.
Thank God.
There is some cloning stuff that's there, but that's more so for the certain technologies in which are used. It's more of the dark side of the Force in which he used, which he learned ways to bring himself back, as well as Sith alchemy, which the Sith alchemy was partially him, but was mainly, what we know is he was brought back to Exegol by these Sith followers who helped with the Sith alchemy and the dark side of the Force.
I just wish we had gotten an explanation for that in the film. And part of me is thinking, like, was this Disney's actual plan, or was it a theory, like, oh, maybe this is what happened? Disney, like, yeah, that was it.
No,
just quick, write a book right now. Make it seem like this shit was planned. We had no fucking idea what was going on here. Just write something.
No, they actually said from the beginning of this trilogy, actually JJ talks about this, Ryan talks about it, in that this was planned from the beginning, that they were going to bring back Palpatine.
I am inclined to believe that to a point. My main thing is, like, was it planned out well? As much as I love Last Jedi, I do think if JJ was planning this, that he did kind of throw a wrench into things. I still love Last Jedi, but I think maybe his story did kind of muck up a few things in terms of what JJ was planning. Now, JJ and Ryan have both said that nothing they did conflicted, and JJ was a producer for Last Jedi, so if Ryan was doing some stuff that conflicted with what he said, I'm sure we would have found out by now. I'm sure JJ would have said something. But going back to the story, I feel that things were a little rushed. I feel that some things weren't explained or weren't explained as well as they should be. And not quite frankly, I disagreed with some of the choices made. Now, with that said, action is great. The callbacks to both the prequels and the original trilogy are fantastic. Has some very, very beautiful tear-jerking moments. I got misty-eyed in the theater. Sue me! Unlike other people, I think the lightsaber fight was great. There's people complaining that it wasn't a 200-mile-an-hour fight like Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. If they did that, you'd be complaining that they didn't have these skills in the previous film. They kind of have to stick with what they were going with. Anyway,
and kind of to go along with all that, I agree with much of what you're saying now, and I think there should have been more time. Now, one thing where I think there is some positivity to actually the quick pacing, which I know it's somewhat of a negative thing, but I think that this is, about the pacing is fast. But I think the positive thing about that, I think in some ways that kind of goes along to the lines of how crucial and how quick this film is, in the fact that they have to be quick, because if they don't get this done, they don't do this, they don't do that. It's the galaxy is on the line.
And I get that, but at the same time, this is also, you're trying to tell a story,
and I don't disagree with you.
And with this pacing, it's difficult to tell a meaningful story.
Right, I don't disagree with you there. I'm just bringing up the point that, that's why in some ways I like this fast pacing.
Right
now.
I think when it comes to the action and stuff where it has to be fast-paced, it's phenomenal.
Because to tell you the truth...
when it comes to where it needs to slow down, it doesn't really slow down, and that's my problem.
Well, and I think if you make this a 3-hour film...
I think a lot of these issues would have been solved.
Well, not only that, but I still think...
because that gives you a full extra half hour to wrap everything up.
Right. And I don't think you necessarily... all of that has to be slower. Because I think, like I said, one of the reasons why I think it's a plus is the big fact it's go, 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 because, If you don't, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so I think, can there be couple more slower parts that are thrown in there that make sense? Absolutely. But I think one of the things that I think that could have been also in this is also, lack of a better way to say it, something that is almost like a little string that ties this all together, but not necessarily it being slow. It's the fact because it's fast, overall, there's going to be a couple more slower parts, but as an overall standpoint, that looking at it, it's like, you can kind of already get this, but you really get it, and you're really like, wow, if they didn't go this quick, they would have been screwed.
Right.
So
and I get that, but I think my point still stands that either they needed to, they either needed to cut some stuff to really give some much needed answers, or they needed to make the film longer. Aside from that, I don't have much to complain about with this film. I think the acting is still phenomenal. Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver especially, is great in this. John Boyega, Billy D. Williams, all the actors do very well in this. And of course, when Palpatine fires the lightning, best scene in the movie for me, or one of the best at least. The question now that I'd like to pose to you, because it looks like, according to my phone, we've only got about 8 minutes worth of recording time left. So the question that needs to be asked now is, now that we have a completed trilogy, where do you think it ranks in terms of the trilogies, if you have to rank each trilogy? And I know that's difficult, but I can do it pretty easily. And how does this feel story-wise when compared to the prequels and the originals? Does this feel like Star Wars to you? Now, I would answer in terms of ranking the trilogies. I would rank original trilogy at the top.
I'll agree with you on that.
I would rank then the sequel trilogy in the middle. Granted, not by a ton, because I think one area where the prequels do shine over the sequels is they had a definitive story from the very beginning. They knew they had a beginning, middle, and end of where they wanted to go. Maybe not for certain parts of it. Like some things I think were definitely changed on the fly with the prequels, but I think they definitely had this is where we're beginning, this is where it's going to go in the next film, and this is where it's going to end. With the sequels, I feel like they were kind of making it up as they went along. They may have had a basic outline of where they wanted to go, but not enough that I could say it was planned out as well. I also think that the music is better in the prequels, but at the same time, I'm putting the sequels above the prequels because the prequels, as films themselves, I don't find as enjoyable or as competently crafted. Like, especially episodes 1 and 2. Those are my bottom two. I would rather take the sequels over the prequels as a whole. I think Revenge of the Sith I still enjoy more than my favorite sequel. Like, I still think I haven't seen any of the sequels yet that I liked more than Revenge of the Sith, but at the same time, that's not saying much because, episodes 1 and 2 were not very good. At least in my opinion, I still like them. But and does it feel like Star Wars? I would say to me, yes. I still feel like this fits in the Star Wars universe well. There are some things that I think weren't very good. There were some things that I thought were very good. But overall, I am happy with it. I'm a content customer. Now, Aaron, you've got about 5 or 4.5 minutes.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean, I guess I do the same placement. It's just so hard. It's a lot harder for me.
Because you love them all.
I mean, I do.
And I do too, but it's easier, I think, for me to rank them.
It's a lot harder for me to rank them, and it's just because I love
It's like ranking your children for you. It's like, how could you do that?
It's a bad analogy, but it's, I guess, the best we can go with. But yeah, I mean, it's so much harder for me because I love Star Wars. And I mean, I know that's like, oh,
You fake fan, you just love the brand name. They could take a piece of shit and put Star Wars on it and you'd still love it, wouldn't you? You fanboy. Yeah, I hate those people. Don't be one of those guys.
But no, like, honestly, now we have some slapstick in our talks. How do we like that? Anyway, but no, like in
better than the slapstick in the new movies. I hate it. Seriously, don't be one of those guys. No one likes to be you. No one wants to be around you.
Alrighty then. But no, like I really think it's just
because we've got like 3 minutes. The question I want to ask: do these new films feel like Star Wars?
Oh,
to you?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, they feel as great as all the others. I mean, I honestly feel like this. I mean, it really does to me look like the story that it is. I mean, it feels so much like Star Wars. It is Star Wars. It's so much fun. Like. Honestly, and this is crazy to say, sue me. I'm a Star Wars fan. I can say what I want. This is our show. I can say what I want. But
now
honestly,
you're speaking like a true Concordia Jedi. It's our show, which means we can do what we want. Na. Anyway.
But
we're kind of dicks.
But anyways, we're gonna have a lot to bleep out of this because of you. But like absolutely. Some of these films, in the theater, it was more of an experience for me for these sequels than any of the other films I've seen, like in Star Wars, especially Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Those two, in the theater, it's just like, oh, like you're there and you're just like.
All right. Well, when the next trilogy comes out, I'll be sure when I sit down and the opening theme plays, I go, oh. Just people around me going, the hell is his problem?
but
leave him alone. He lived through the Last Jedi War. The internet comment war that tore the nation apart. We lost many lives that day.
I'm trying to talk.
There were a couple things that split humanity and caused great wars. There was the Crusades. There was 9/11. There was the Reformation, and then there was the Last Jedi. Oh my God! Nothing else split humanity like those things. Last Jedi created a new holy war, for crying out loud. You think the wars going on right now overseas are over some foreign policy? No, Last Jedi.
But
final thoughts.
But no, like the atmosphere is so fantastic. The cinematography, fantastic.
Masterful.
Yeah, and
especially with Last Jedi.
Oh yes, and I just feel like if I will dare say to some of those haters out there, if anything, this is more Star Wars than I dare say we've ever seen. And this is Star Wars, and it is amazing, and I love it, and I can't wait to continue to see with these TV shows, with the new trilogies or trilogy or whatever the heck's coming next in films and spin-offs and whatever. I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
Because it is only, I think, I will dare say, going to keep getting better.
Well said. That's what I think too. I mean, I think even if you didn't like the new films, I think you're going to like what's going forward. Mandalorian has already got pretty much every Star Wars fan in its grasp. New season of Clone Wars. We're only just getting started, guys. Even if we got off to a rocky start with the sequels, we're just going to keep going forward and getting better from here. So, let us know what you guys think of the sequel trilogy, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, Force Awakens, any of those films. Let us know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Stop doing those hand movements. And we'll see you next time on Concordia Jedi. May the Force be with you.
Always.